Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores the goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen now.
Welcome. Thank you once again for tuning in to the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the Soccer Podcast Network. My name is Craig Jones, and I'll be your host today. You can call me Jonesy, you can call me the Canadiana Footy Man. Really doesn't matter to me because we're in the middle of the international break, so nothing can pain me more than that. All seriousness though, today I want to start it off with a good old European roundup. I'm going to start off in England because the transfer window is closing. There was some insane matchups this weekend. It was great. And there's going to be a lot of big names on the move because this window's closing fast. After that, I want to touch down in Spain and Germany before we finish it off in Italy with the Serie A. And as I said, we're on the international break, which means there's some countries that are on friendlies. Some are on Euro 2020 qualifiers. And others might just be sitting at home for breaking coronavirus protocols like Mason Mount did earlier this year. So who knows what that's going to happen. I'm surprised they're still going ahead with all the international games given COVID, but the game must go on. So any international fans out there, you might be able to check your team, see in Germany. I think England plays on the 9th, but we'll get to that later. In the end, I want to just finish it off with, I just finished watching the Tottenham All or Nothing documentary for the Hotspurs. It's really interesting. I know it's a little cookie cutter, and of course they're cleaning everything up, but you still get to see the inner workings of a football club, even though it's one of Tottenham, which I'm not the biggest fan of. But regardless, it was really cool to watch. Jose Mourinho really is the star of the show, and rightfully so. He's such a bigger than life character. So stick around to the end for that. I'm excited to give my analysis of that. It was really enjoyable. But let's not mess around. England, here we come. For those that heard the last GMC soccer episode, I refer to the top 6 in the EPL as the usual 6. Because they're not the top 6 anymore. They're usually there. And then I followed it up by saying 2020, as we've all seen, is the year where anything can happen. And did it ever this weekend. It was amazing. Twitter was going wild. So in the morning, morning where I am in Canada, but in England, Manchester United is absolutely destroyed by the Tottenham Hotspurs at home. You know that felt good for Mourinho playing his old club that he was sacked from. He didn't mince words when he said a few things. Okay, let's get into this here. So there was a very questionable VAR call. And Jose Mourinho has been very adamant that Manchester United gets all the VAR calls. Well, on this one, they sure didn't. It was insane. So Martial and Lamela, I'll set the scene. Martial and Lamela, they're kind of jockeying back and forth on a corner. Lamela kind of elbows Martial a little bit in the chin, and then Martial just like pushes his face, and Lamela goes down like a heap of bricks. Selling it. I could almost hear the screams from the crowdless noise, but it was really tough because Martial got a straight red, and that changed the game. I think Tottenham was still going to win. They were outplaying them regardless, but that was just the nail in the coffin. 2 goals by Son, 2 goals by Kane. I don't know who to blame for this for Manchester United. De Gea didn't play well. The defense was atrocious. There's one hilarious clip of Maguire tackling his own player when the player is about to stop the ball from going in the net, and he just, I don't know what he was thinking there. But Manchester United, they look a little weak. Pogba looked weird. I don't know. I said that last time that I'm not a big believer in Manchester United. Ole's a good coach, but I don't think he has the squad that he needs to be successful. They got Rashford up front. They have all the money in the world. They're trying to make some signings. Apparently, I don't know if it's done yet, but it was in talks that Edison Cavani's making the jump over the pond. He's never played in England, so that'll be fun to see. He's done Italy, he's done Spain, he's done France, but now he's going to make that jump, so that'll be interesting to see, bringing the big Uruguayan. Other than that, I think Manchester United is just trying to grab some young talent all around the world, but so they'll be busy in this transfer window. The other big game, though, I don't know if it was karma or what for Liverpool fans, because they were really giving it to Manchester United for their loss of 6-1 to Tottenham. And Aston Villa said, all right, eat your words. We're going to beat you 7-2. 7-2 against the reigning champions by Aston Villa. And those people, I know Aston Villa is a historic club, but it's been a bottom feeder for a while now, for the last 10, 15 years. But it's not anymore. They got a lot of young talent. That big signing of Ollie Watkins really paid off when the kid grabs a hat-trick against the reigning champions. Add that to Jack Grealish. Everyone is trying to get him in the transfer window. Aston Villa refused to sell. I'm sure they're happy they didn't now, because he popped in 2 goals. Russ Barkley on a fresh signing from Chelsea. He's on a loan deal. He popped in 1. John McGinn scored. Mo Salah snagged 2 for Liverpool, but it was all for naught. There was a lot of gaffes. There was a couple of gaffes from Adrian. So Adrian's playing. He's the backup goalie, and you can tell they're really missing Alisson, who's still battling injury. Sadio Mane, they're one of their top strikers, was tested positive for COVID, so obviously he was out. It was just an insane series of events to watch 2 monsters just get absolutely dismantled so easy. And that works out well for me, because I was able to watch my Arsenal Gunners in the morning. They were the first game for me. They beat Sheffield United just barely. I was so happy. There was a big goal by Pepe, beautifully slid into the left corner. It was nice to see. That's big for Arsenal, because they need to just keep hanging around, especially if teams like Man U and Liverpool are going to be dropping points like that. The Wolverhampton Wolves were able to beat Fulham 1-0. Good to see Wolves. Nuno Santos, I've been bigging them up. I think they're going to be able to finish top 6, so I'd be watching for them. Southampton and West Brom. Oh, that I didn't get to catch that game, but those are always fun teams to watch, where you know they're both middle of the pack, so there's not that big discrepancy. Shocking loss by Leicester, 3-0 to West Ham. That really that threw me off, because Leicester had been playing so well. They were coming off that huge destroying of Man City in the Etihad, so that was a surprise. Leicester's maybe just need a bounce back game, or maybe West Ham's just a better team than we thought, because they gave Arsenal a run for their money that I watched earlier in the year. So Newcastle and Burnley. Newcastle was able to get a 3-1 win. Another storied club trying to make the comeback. There's been talks that they're going to get a lot of foreign money coming in then, or a little Saudi Arabian money. So they're going to look for that. But it sounds like the EPL is blocking the deal, and it's really interesting, because there's a link between Saudi Arabia and owning a pirate company that steals a lot of the English games. And Saudi Arabia refuses to acknowledge it and basically do anything about it. So they said, hey, we're not going to let you get through here. So they're wanting to buy that club, and I know that a lot of these billionaire oligarchs want to have a little toy, so I don't blame them for that. Leeds United and Man City, a shocking 1-1 tie. The freshly promoted Leeds played really well. They deserve that tie. Man City just doesn't look good. It doesn't look like the same Man City. I know they got a lot of injuries, but this is why this year is going to be wide open. And another team that's shocking everyone, Everton, beat Brighton 4-2. I know beating Brighton isn't the headline grabber, but Everton sitting atop the table is the headline grabber. Everton, with newly appointed coach Carlo Ancelotti, they brought in James Rodriguez. They still have a lot of weird players that just haven't made the cusp, like Richarlison and stuff. They haven't been able to make that extra jump. So I'm really hoping that Everton can keep this pace up it's fun to see new clubs, new blood in there. Chelsea destroyed Crystal Palace 4-0. Their young signings are starting to really make their influence. Timo's looking great. Kai Havertz, unbelievable. It's really not fair that the rich get richer. In regards to transfer news, actually, sorry, let me give you the list of the top four before we jump to the transfer. So right now, sitting atop the table, we've got Everton and Aston Villa, or Everton with 12, Aston Villa with 9. Leicester is sitting with 9. Arsenal sitting with 9. Liverpool sitting with 9. And that's your top 5. Everton, Aston Villa, Leicester, Arsenal, and Liverpool. Who would have thunked it? That is bonkers to me. That follows up with Tottenham in 6, Chelsea 7th. You drop down to the newly promoted Leeds at 8, Newcastle 9, West Ham 10, Southampton 11, Crystal Palace 12th, Wolves 13th. I know you're saying, where are those teams that I'm so used to hearing? Well, here they are. 14 is Man City. 15 is Brighton. 16, Manchester United. 17, West Brom. And sitting in relegation zone right now is Burnley, Sheffield, and Fulham. I don't see Sheffield staying there, maybe unless last year was just a flash in the pan. They played really well. They played a good, solid game. I can't believe I'm seeing Man City and Man U in 14th and 16th. But like I said, 2020, anything can happen. That's the fun thing about footy. All right, let's mosey on over for some transfer news. For those unfamiliar, in footy, you get certain windows. They call it the transfer windows. There's the winter transfer window, the summer transfer window. These are certain windows where if you want to sign a player or send a player on loan, sign a player on loan, sign a player permanently, all of the above, it has to be done within this certain time frame. England has been trying to match up their transfer window with the rest of Europe for years. Unfortunately, that's not how it is. So it's very complicated when it comes to this. But I think it closes at midnight tonight. So in England, it's gone. So whoever is, and there's a lot of last second deals, a lot of those 25th hour deals. So here are the ones that are actually done right now. Manchester United has been busy. And it's kind of ironic that Luke Shaw, Manchester United player, really didn't hold back his criticism of his team's poor performance in 6-1. Well, they're looking to do something about it. They signed Alex Telles from Porto for about $15 million. He's a really strong left back. Luke Shaw's a left back. So I don't know if this is going to light the fire under Luke Shaw, if they're going to be looking to move him later on. It's going to be interesting because he's been there a long time. In addition, they also snagged Edison Cavani. Atletico was really trying to get him over there, and from what it's the sounds of it, they had him all locked up, and then at the last second, Manchester United came in and swooped him over the pond. So Cavani's currently over there taking his physical before he makes the signing. They also, this is a nice one by Manchester United. This is probably their best signing, is they signed Ahmad Traore from the high-flying Atalanta in Syria. I really like this kid. He's a teenager. Cote d'Ivoire, he's such a talent. He popped in a lot of goals last year. I was really surprised to see Atalanta let him go, but he commanded, I believe it was a $30 million fee. So that'll do it. You know, like sometimes you can't turn it down. So that's a nice play by them. Manchester United has been really busy. Everton looking, maybe this is their year, so they're trying to stay busy too. They signed Ben Godfrey from Norwich City. This is a nice one. It's only for about $25 million. And I think he was roughly valued at about $50 million. But this is, of course, prior to the pandemic. So I know things are going to be kind of, I guess it's like reverse inflation because of COVID. You can't ask the numbers that you would have once asked for. So maybe it's starting to even itself out. Other one in Italy or in England is my Arsenal Gunners. They've been trying to be busy. They couldn't sign that who are from Lyon, so they're going back to Thomas Partey in Atletico. Whether they get him or not, I think Arsenal's been trying to just play cheap. They're trying to barter and barter and barter. Atleti is standing tall and saying, nope, you got to pay that because they have Partey has a $50 million release clause. And I think Arsenal's going to pay it because Arteta has been very adamant that he wants to strengthen his midfielder. He likes the way Partey plays. He's a Ghanaian midfielder is strong. I think he wants a change of pace out of Atleti. But from what it sounds like, he's on his way to London to have the physical. And simultaneously, Arsenal sent Lucas Torreira to Atletico on loan. So that's interesting to see. I don't know how the deal works with wages and everything, because I'm hoping that Atleti's taking some of the brunt of that. Other than that, Arsenal's been pretty quiet. They did send some guys back on loan. Saliba, which was a surprise because the center back came over. But then I read a story that I guess his mother was having trouble, so he wanted to go back to France and be with her. So I can't knock him for that. There's a few other names that I was surprised didn't go on loan for Arsenal, as I was surprised Mohamed El-Neni hasn't, but I guess he's been getting a lot of playing time, so good for him. He's been on loan for the last 3 or 4 years, so now he finally gets his chance to try to earn his place. And once again, Mesut Ozil just lurks in the dark. Nobody's heard or seen from him. Another Arsenal castaway that got his wish is Matteo Guendouzi. He was actually just sent out on loan to Hertha Berlin. After a little dust up in training with Mikel Arteta, he's yet to step foot on the pitch since. Even rumors say he was training by himself. So he finally got his wish and got sent over to Germany. We'll see how he does there. He's a good player. Young kid, maybe he's just got to learn a little bit. So, and their London rivals Chelsea actually just announced that Ruben Loftus-Cheek is set to go on loan to Fulham. So Ruben, the English, he's been outcasted a little bit in Frank Lampard's new Chelsea, of course, with all the signings. I mentioned Thomas Partey earlier. There's links that Chelsea's trying to swoop in for a steal. I don't know if they're just trying to drive the price up for Arsenal or if they're actually interested in Partey. And I also heard that they've been trying to push Jorginho out on loan. And whether that ends up he stays in London as Arsenal's expressed interest, I don't know. Jorginho looks lost out there for Frank Lampard. He needs to get back with Sarri. When he plays with Sarri, whether it was in Napoli or whether it was in Chelsea, he just looked great for Sarri. But right now, he doesn't look the best. So I'd be fine if Arsenal took him. He could add some real experience in a midfield that desperately needs it. So that's it for the English transfer news. I'll touch on the other ones as I go down the leagues. But before we leave England, I just want to do a little match day run for the next one. So as I mentioned, we're on a little international break, so we don't come back until the 17th. So the 17th matchup, you get a nice one. You get Everton-Liverpool, little Merseyside derby. These teams really don't like each other, and I mean really don't like each other, so much so that when Liverpool won the championship last year, they just randomly went and burnt down a building that belongs to Everton. So nothing like winning the championship and celebrating by burning your rival's building down, I guess. So that's that passion. That's your early morning game in my time. The early game at night for England. Then we get West Brom and Burnley. That one will be a little slower. Might still be a fun one to watch. Chelsea Southampton. I hope Southampton can give them heck, because Chelsea's been getting a little bit of walkthroughs. I'd like to see them take a draw out of that. Manchester United is going to look to bounce back against Newcastle. I'm so curious to see what lineup Manchester United puts forth. Do you go with the same group of guys that lost that bad, or do you give a little bit of some youth? I know Martial is going to be suspended, so he won't be starting. Rashford already said on social media that he's apologized for a really poor performance, and he expects his team to do better. Leicester City, Aston Villa. Jamie Vardy's going to want to get back on his horse. Was shut out last week. He could be, I think, probably the first Englishman to repeat Golden Boot in a long time. I'd like to check that stack. I'm going to check that stat after this. I'll have it for you next episode. Sheffield United and Fulham. As I said, if they're able to get Ruben Loftus-Cheek, he could have a resurgence. He's been plagued by injuries, but I think he can make a comeback there. He could do really well. So that one won't be the most exciting, but it'll be an interesting match, and it'll be big for relegation because both of those are sitting in the relegation zone. Big game here. We got Manchester City against Arsenal. So Arsenal has to walk into the Etihad. Arsenal doesn't have the best record against Manchester City as of late, But bringing in Mikel Arteta, Pep Guardiola's old assistant, maybe he's got some insider info, maybe he's got some tactics that other teams may not be privy to. They were able to finally beat them last year in the FA Cup semifinals en route to beating Chelsea. So Arsenal's a different team now. They're not the same team under Wenger, and they're not the same team as they were under Unai Emery for sure. Arteta is a heck of a coach. He's trying to instill a whole new world in there, and to be fearful of Man City isn't the way to go. So I still believe that they can win this game. It's going to be big. Man City's going to be looking for revenge. They came off a bad loss to Leicester, tied newly promoted Leeds. Pep's going to be begging for this. I don't want to say people are clamoring for Pep's job, but he's definitely going to be getting a little bit of stink eye if he loses this one to Arsenal. And, of course, Mikel Arteta. Then we mosey on over. We got Crystal Palace and Brighton. I think that'll be fun. I hope Wilfried Zaha gets to get out there and score some goals. He's such a fun striker. He's been asking for transfer requests for years. They won't let him out of Crystal Palace. Let him out. Let my Zaha out. He can come to Arsenal. Tottenham goes against West Ham. It's a nice little London derby. The Hammers are looking pretty good in Tottenham. I know they're coming off that big win. Sometimes that can be good. Sometimes it can be really bad, and I'm hoping it's the latter rather than the former. So watch out for those Hammers. But the Hotspurs are a great team, and as I'm going to talk about later, I told you that documentary about them really gave me a glimpse into who they are. And then the final on the match day for match day 5 in the English League is Leeds United against Wolves. So freshly promoted Leeds United off a big tie against Man City gets to go against Nuno Santos, Traore, the flying Wolves, the Portuguese Wolves. That's what they're calling them because they got a lot of pro-Portuguese players, including wonder kid Fabio Silva. Oh, geez. I'll give you my predictions. I think Everton shocks Liverpool. Let's keep the upsets going. I think Chelsea will win. West Brom will beat Burnley. Newcastle, Man U, I'm predicting a tie. I'd be going 1-1 on that draw. Maybe even 0-0. Neither team can really find the back of the net, even though there's been a lot of goals this year. Leicester's going to bounce back. Jamie Vardy, watch out for him. Sheffield United and Fulham. I won't be watching that one, but I'll keep an eye on the scoreboard because that one's a relegation zone game. Man City, Arsenal, I'm going Gunners all day. Crystal Palace, Brighton, Zaha, like I said, let him out. Crystal Palace, let's go. Tottenham, West Ham, I'm thinking a draw. And Wolves and Leeds. Yeah, I think Nuno Santos is going to do this, but I do love watching that Leeds team. Bielsa is one of the greatest coaches of all time, very revered in the coaching community. So that's your English roundup. Keep your phone on for the transfer news. Right when that deadline hits, there's going to be a lot of late release transfers. Stay tuned after the break. We're going to jump over to Spain, Germany, Italy for a quick breakdown. And then once again at the end, I have a full analysis of the Tottenham Hotspurs All or Nothing documentary. A lot of cool stuff in that. You're going to want to stay tuned for that.
Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? The GSMC College Football Podcast is your ticket to all things college football. Join us as we talk college football from the national championship, the college rivalries, the bowl game, to the Heisman Trophy. To which conference is the best? We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, the Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between. Download the GSMC College Football Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
All right, welcome back to the GSMC Soccer Podcast on the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm Craig Jones. I just finished giving you a full English rundown, a little bit of transfer news, some predictions, and just a flat-out recap of the craziness that was. But now we're jumping down into España. We're going to the La Liga. It was match day 5 this weekend. They're also on the international break, so they won't be jumping back until next weekend. So just a quick rundown of the few games. Eibar was able to beat Valladolid with a red card. They still were able to hold on 2-1. They played 10 men for most of that game. Atletico, they're struggling. They tied Villarreal 0-0. They can't seem to find the back of the net. They brought in Luis Suarez. They have João Felix. They have Diego Costa. They have firepower up front. I don't know what's going on there. Maybe Simeone needs to loosen the reins on the park the bus. He likes to play with 6 or 7 defenders quite often. So I think he might have to jump out a little bit because they need to start scoring goals. And without Cavani coming, so they can't rely on a new striker coming in. So maybe it'll be a tactical switch. Huesca and Elche tied 0-0. Real Sociedad was able to beat Getafe 3-0. Real Betis held on to Valencia 2-0. Osasuna held that home against Celta Vigo 2-0. Alavés beat Athletic Club, another team winning 1-0 with a red card. It's crazy playing game 10 men. Anybody that plays footy knows it's hard to play. You do a lot more running. Real Madrid was finally able to get into the win column with a 2-0 win over Levante. Granada and Cadiz tied 1-1. Same with Barcelona and Sevilla. There's no heavyweights this year. If you look at the top 4 before we jump into the next match days, we got 10, 9, 8, 8, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 6, 5. Like, they're all within a point of each other. You got Real Madrid sitting atop, but that's distorted. They haven't been playing well. Barcelona's sitting in 5th. And look at Atleti sitting in 12th. So Real Betis and Real Sociedad and Villarreal, I wouldn't be expecting to see them sitting there at the top 5. Sevilla is a great team. I think people are sleeping on them. Valencia is going to be trying to make an impact. New coach Unai Emery. I think that we're going to be in, just as it is in the English league, the La Liga is going to be in the same thing. It's 2020. Anything can happen. It's been a long time since they've had a new La Liga champion. I'd love to see a little change of pace. Real Betis, Real Sociedad can all play well. And maybe that's that little danger part with no crowd and stuff. Walking into the Santiago Bernabeu is a lot different when there's 100,000 people cheering, right? So maybe that could be the factor. There's some good matchups, though, when we get back from the international break. It starts us off with Granada and Sevilla. Like I said, watch out for Sevilla. They're a good squad. Athletic Club gets Levante. Real Betis and Real Sociedad. This is a game for top of the table. They'll be battling hard there. That'll be fun to watch. I'll be tuning into that one. Real Madrid takes on Cadiz. That'll be a walkthrough, I'm assuming. Getafe against Barcelona. I'd be watching for Barcelona. Messi still looks absolutely miserable. He's reiterated that he loves the club. But Ronald Koeman saying, I don't have any impact directly on Messi's happiness, kind of messed with me. I was like, is that something you'd say about your player if you genuinely believe that you could make him happy? I don't know. Huesca and Valladolid, they'll be playing Eibar and Osasuna. Villarreal, Valencia, that'll be a fun one for any neutrals. Just want to catch a good game of footy. Alavés takes on Elche. And then Celta Vigo against Atletico Madrid. So Atleti, they're my favorite La Liga team. They're the team I cheer for the most. They got all the bad guys now, you know. You got Diego Simeone, Luis Suarez, Diego Costa. I mentioned last time for anyone, check out, if you haven't seen Diego Simeone, go David Beckham into getting sent off in the 98 World Cup. It's hilarious. It's really bad. I wonder what VAR would have said if it was still around back then. So my predictions in this day, I'd say Barcelona and Getafe are actually going to tie. Madrid should kill Cadiz. And Atletico and Celta Vigo, Atletico need this. They need to get on the scoreboard. They need to put in 4 or 5 goals. You have the firepower to do it. I want to see the 3-headed monster of Diego Costa, Luis Suarez, and João Felix just one time. I know it might not be the most ideal. And if Thomas Partey's on his way out, they got Lucas Torreira coming in, but that's not the impact they need. He's more of a defensive midfielder. They're going to need to find a way to find the back of the net, and I'm excited to see it. So that's your little La Liga rundown. Let's jump over to the Bundesliga. Last week had some excitement. I know a lot of people don't get that from the Bundesliga. It's usually a lot of heavyweights. But like I said, this is a different world. Bayern was coming off a rough loss to Hoffenheim 4-1, so they needed to rebound, and they were barely able to it against Hertha Berlin. They squeaked out a 4-3 win on the back of Mr. Robin Lewandowski, the Polska wonder, the Chevy to the Levy. He scored all 4 goals for Bayern. Unbelievable. Dortmund also put up a bunch of goals, 4-0. They had Erling Haaland, the blonde bomber, the Norwegian killer, and then some North American flair. They had Giovanni Reina score, the American wonder kid, born in England, but he was raised in New York City. He plays for the American national team. He's a hell of a player. He's only 17 years old. So much fun to watch. Got to watch out for them. Dortmund and Bayern is going to be battling. This is going to be fun to watch this year, folks. Eintracht Frankfurt beat Hoffenheim 2-1. Surprising considering Hoffenheim had that huge game against Bayern prior. Union Berlin held on 4-0 against Mainz. Borussia Mönchengladbach won 3-1 against FC Cologne. Leverkusen tied VfB Stuttgart 1-1. Wolfsburg 0-0 against Augsburg. And RB Leipzig put up 4 as well. There was a lot of 4-goal games. All your heavyweights. Maybe that's how we're going to be able to differentiate in the Bundesliga. Who can score 4 goals every game? Because in one match day, you had Bayern, Leipzig, Dortmund, and Union Berlin score 4 goals, which is very impressive. I love to see it. So before we go into the match days, I'll give you a quick rundown of the table here. You got RB Leipzig, Augsburg, and Eintracht Frankfurt all sitting atop the table with 7 points. Bayern, Dortmund, Hoffenheim, and Werder all tied with 6 points for 4th. Then you drop down into the VfB Stuttgart, Union Berlin, Arminia, Mönchengladbach, SC Freiburg, Hertha, Leverkusen, Wolfsburg. They're all within a point of each other at 4 and 3. And then holding in the relegation zone, yet to crack the goose egg, we got FC Cologne, Mainz, and Schalke. It'll be crazy to see. I'll explain this for anybody unfamiliar. So every year in the Bundesliga and in the EPL and in the Serie A and La Liga, your top 4 teams get into the Champions League. So finishing top 4 is such a huge thing for this club, not only for the morale, for the crowd and the bragging rights to be in Champions League, but the monetary investment you get from Champions League. It's a make or break league, and getting that extra TV money from being on for Champions League, it's an easy way to just boost the treasury for those rainy days. So a lot of these teams will be fighting for it, and no fans, no real heavyweight standing out. So it's anybody's game. So once again, after the international break, they come back on the 17th. And you start us off, we got Mainz and Leverkusen. I'm thinking Leverkusen's going to take that one. They're a good team. They're going to be in Champions League this year. Hoffenheim and Dortmund. I don't know. Hoffenheim was able to beat Bayern Munich. Then they lose last week. Dortmund's too high flying. I think Erling Haaland is something really special, and I'm going to be tuning into that game just to see the blonde bomber. Augsburg has to walk into Leipzig. That's not easy. That's going to be tough. Hertha and VfB Stuttgart. Then we got SC Freiburg and Werder. These are 2 I can't really tell you. They're all a lot of bottom feeders, so we'll have to see. Arminia gets Bayern Munich. I don't know if Bayern Munich can rely on Chevy to the Levy Lewandowski to be scoring 4 goals a game. But the 33-year-old might be able to do it. He doesn't seem to be aging. He should have won the Ballon d'Or last year. It was completely robbed from him. It wasn't fair. I don't know how they just didn't award it anyways. He played so well. So maybe he can win it this year because they denied him last year. Then we move on. We got Mönchengladbach against Wolfsburg. This will be really fun to watch. Mönchengladbach's gearing up. They're in Europa. Wolfsburg's trying to make a run. Then let's see. We got FC Cologne sitting at the bottom and Eintracht Frankfurt. Ever since Eintracht Frankfurt lost Jovic, it's hurt them. But they've been hanging around. They're anybody unfamiliar with Eintracht Frankfurt, they're a really legendary club. And do they ever love their squad? They don't mess around. Huge fan base, really deep following. A lot of firms that cheer for them and are there every game, and they all watch the games together. It's a really interesting thing. And then we got Schalke and Union Berlin as the last game. I think Schalke needs a win. They haven't yet to get it, so that'll be fun to watch. The Bundesliga is wide open, just like I said in the English League and Spanish League. Don't count on the top 4 like you used to. Any longtime footy fans, I know it's easy to tune out because you're just so tired of seeing the same teams, and the rich get richer. The Bavarian Giants of Bayern Munich continuously win every single year, and then you have the one blip where it's Dortmund. Well, there hasn't been a blip in a little while, so maybe this year's the blip. In regards to transfer news in Germany, there hasn't been anything too crazy other than Douglas Costa got sent back to Bayern from Juventus on a loan deal. It's because Italy brought in a few guys. Other than that, in the German league, it's been pretty quiet. I know Munich was trying to get Hudson-Odoi from Chelsea. They weren't able to lock it down. Chelsea shut down those talks. So we'll see what else the transfer window could close at any minute here. I'm excited to see if anyone can get a little better. I don't see that many German teams doing too much. So that'll be the German league. And then let's finish it off here with the Italians, the Serie A. So before we get into the rundown of last week's match day, I don't know if you've heard, but Napoli just didn't show up to their game against Juventus because they had players test positive for COVID. Now, it's a really complicated issue because technically they've all come to an agreement that you don't have to forfeit the game if you have 2 or 3 players that test positive. You just have to isolate them, and then the rest of the team self-isolates together in a hotel room or take the chartered flight, which was what was planned to do. Then the Naples government, they contacted the Naples Health Government Authority, and they told them not to travel. So they didn't, and then that's who has the supreme ruling on this is your health organization. So I don't know. We're going to have to see what happens there. I was excited to watch that match, Juventus and Napoli. It'll be a good one whenever it does get to happen. The other matches that did go down, Sampdoria beat Fiorentina 2-1. Cassuolo against Crotone. Cassuolo won 4-1. Roma was able to hold on for a 1-0 win against Udinese. And that I mentioned last episode, that cool story about Francesco Totti. Just an update. The girl is doing really well. She's out of her coma. So a girl was in a coma, and she's a huge Roma fan, and he sent her a video, and they played it for her while she was in a coma, and she woke up. And then he went and saw her, and she wasn't able to speak, and she just was able to use a tablet and write stuff down. But she was so thrilled, and maybe it was Totti, maybe it was luck, maybe it was everything. But she's out of a coma, and she's doing really well, so that's a great story. Good job, Francesco Totti. You're a legend in not only Roma and Italy, but in the world. Atalanta had a high-flying game again, 5-2 against Cagliari. If there's any bettors out there, I'd be betting the over on every Atalanta game there is, because all these guys do is score goals. You have the Colombian wonder kids up front. It's too bad they're going to lose the Amad Traore, that wonder kid, but hey, it happens. You can't keep them all. Parma held on against Verona for a 1-0 win. Benevento against Bologna won 1-0. Lazio and Inter Milan had a fierce game, 1-1 with 2 red cards. Hilarious. Immobile, of course, it's a straight red. You can't be doing that. And then AC Milan against Spezia. No goal for the ageless wonder Zlatan Ibrahimovic. But Milan is creeping, and they're not the old Milan. They want to get back to the real Milan. So you watch out for AC Milan. Quick run under the table before we go to next week's match. Atalanta, as I said, they're high-flying. They're fun to watch. They're sitting atop the table, tied with Milan with 9 points. Sassuolo is sitting in third with 7, tied with Inter Milan. Napoli's holding down 5th with 6 points. And then we go to Verona, Benevento, and is with 6, and Juventus sitting there with 4 in 8th place. Followed up by Lazio. Roma, as I mentioned, you can really cheer for Roma. Genoa, Bologna, Fiorentina, Sampdoria, Spezia, Parma, Cagliari. They're all sitting within 1 point of each other. And then, once again, just like in the Bundesliga, you got three teams holding up the basement in the relegation zone. You got Torino, Udinese, and Crotone. Crotone's freshly promoted. It's always going to be tough to make the jump. But I think of these teams, I'm liking Milan. I'm liking Milan and Atalanta this year. I really like what Milan's done. Ibro's that dude that can just score. I know I'm a little biased because he's one of my favorite players of all time, so it's tough to hide my biasy there, but he's an ageless wonder. He needs to get and they need a change, and this is what 2020's proven to us, that we're not going to have the same champions every year. It's not going to be like that this year. Everything's going to be different. You watch and see. So let's go to the match days. Same thing, back on the 17th after the international break. We got Napoli go against Atalanta. That'll be the game of the week. Put an asterisk next to that because we have to see what happened with Napoli and their COVID testing. Sampdoria against Lazio. Inter Milan against AC Milan. A good old derby. A good old Milan derby. That'll be fun to watch. Conte's been looking really good with Inter Milan. Lukaku had an interesting interview recently in the press where he was lambasting the English media for calling him lazy and when he was in Chelsea and saying he doesn't run, versus now he says, I'm doing the same things and I'm dominating. So maybe it's them, maybe it's you. Crotone is going to try to get their first win against Juventus with Ronaldo. Speaking of Juventus, they just signed, today it was just announced, Federico Chiesa from Fiorentina. This is a fun one to watch because they let Diego Costa go back to Bayern Munich on loan. Here's his replacement. Park him behind Ronaldo. You could have ran right with Dybala. Man, Juventus is trying to get better. There was a big signing, $50 million for a young kid, but he's going to be worth it. His dad played on the national team. He's playing on the national team for the Italian national team. And let's continue. We got Verona against Genoa. Oh, that one's a tough one. Same thing. I have no idea who's going to win that game. Torino and Cagliari. I like the way Torino's been playing, actually. They just haven't had the success that they want. Without getting a win. Udinese and Parma. And then the last game of the week is Roma against Benevento, sorry. Out of these, I'd be definitely parking down anybody that's a neutral. And I know I'll be the first to say it, like sometimes Italian games are a little tougher to watch, a lot more defensive action. But I found lately, without the fans there, a lot of these games have been a little more wide open. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's just the tension of having the crowd watching you. You play less to make mistakes, or you play more to not make mistakes and play less to create mistakes. Versus now, I feel like, the only person that's going to yell at you is your coach or your teammates. So you don't have to deal with the whistles. You don't have to deal with the fans being ruthless. Bob Dylan was right. These times, they are a-changing. So I just want to finish it off here with the match of the week from each league. EPL, I'm going Man City Arsenal. That's the one everyone's going to want to watch. It's going to be a fun one. I know I'm a little biased, but to see Mikel Arteta against Pep Guardiola, a matchup of similar tacticians, pass from the back, little ticky-tacky soccer, it's going to be fun. If you don't like that, I'd go over to the Liverpool-Everton game. You can never go wrong with a derby, especially a Merseyside derby. In La Liga, there's not a lot of sexy matchups, but Getafe and Barcelona will be really fun. They're sitting tied with 7 points each. Barcelona has not proven themselves to be special yet. We're going to have to see who takes over on that team. And the Bundesliga, I'd be watching the Augsburg RB Leipzig game. They're both tied for the top of the table. RB Leipzig, always looking to prove themselves. Lost their star striker last year. Doesn't matter. We're still sitting at top of the table in the Bundesliga. That's good coaching. That's good recruiting. That's good management. And then to finish it off in the Serie A, game of the week has got to be AC Milan against Inter Milan. Lukaku and Ibrahimovic, two giants up front for each club. Conte's coming in there. AC Milan trying to make their resurgence. And once again, same with the Merseyside. Anytime you can get a derby, that's what you need. The derby, for anyone that's not familiar, once again, I take things for granted. A derby is a matchup between any two teams that are in the same city. So you know that tension is just brewing. And only really in footy can it happen. I'm sure in other sports, I guess, like with New York and teams that have other two teams in one city, but there's not that many of them. And coming from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, I can't even imagine we have one hockey team and one Canadian football team. That is all. So I can imagine holding down two cities. So that's why this derby matchup's so interesting to me. Stay tuned after the break. I want to jump into the international friendlies because all these boys are representing their country. So we'll chat with them right after this.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm Craig Jones. I just finished discussing the Bundesliga, Serie A, La Liga. I give you all the games that you should be watching this week, especially if you're a neutral. Check that out if you missed it. But we're on to international duty, everybody. We got a little break here. The international break is always a little bittersweet for me because up here in Canada, we don't get much love for our national team or get to see many friendlies, which also means I don't get soccer on the weekend. But I do get to watch footy Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday internationally. And yes, I joke that because of Canada, but I still love watching international football. It's going to be a little different because there's no fans there, because there's something special being in a stadium full of two countries that are just vying for glory. So it's a little different, though, this international break. So you have some teams that are on international friendlies, and then you have other teams that actually have meaningful games in their Europa qualifier. So they alternate. So let's start off in the Euro. So this is for Euro 2021, technically, even though they said they're going to keep the signage of Euro 2020. I'm guessing they've invested so much money in the signage that they don't want to just burn it and toss it to the side. So it was destined to be hosted across 8 cities, including St. Petersburg, Rome, Amsterdam, Berlin. You had 8 different host nations. It was the first time they were doing this. It was such an exciting thing. Has a special place in my heart because my gal and I actually won a trip from KLM to go anywhere in the world. So we had it all planned. We were going to just plan it so we could be in the city because we won it after all the tickets had already been distributed for Euro. So we were just trying to plan it to be in the city when it kicks off in Rome, or somehow mosey on to St. Petersburg and just be in the vicinity of a game. Well, because of COVID, that plan got shut down real quick, so the trip got delayed. So now we have some vouchers. So I'm thinking we use them for this Euro 2021, and we plan this and see if I don't know if there's going to be fans there. I don't know what traveling is going to be like. I'm just living on a prayer here and hoping. So let's get to the matchups, though. Enough of me. We got Georgia and Belarus on Thursday morning. That'll be the first game. Then you got North Macedonia against Kosovo, followed up by Slovakia and Ireland. Then we got Bosnia-Herzegovina against Northern Ireland, sorry. Then Iceland and Romania, Bulgaria, Hungary, Scotland, Israel, and then Norway and Serbia. So those are all your European matchups. It's interesting because a lot of these groups, the way that they're seeded, you have some that are clearly so far ahead. Like if you look in Group A, England has 21 points. Closest next to them is Czech. So with the amount of games played, they're not going to be able to get caught up. But there's some close ones here, and a lot of games for these teams that are going to matter here. Austria is still fighting with Poland to sneak in there. France and Turkey are dominating, but Iceland can jump in there in Group H. Iceland, another special place in my heart. I was able to go there, one of the most beautiful countries, and I was following them all the way in their Euro run. They made it to the World Cup. I really think that people need to investigate how they made it so far, because what it is just pure coaching. So what they do in Iceland, I chatted with a guy that is big in soccer there. He gave me the whole breakdown. So every player goes through the same set of systems. So it's obviously different because it's a smaller country, but it's like almost like a feeder system. And unlike in North America or other countries where you have volunteer coaches, or Kyle's dad is the coach or something, and he's actually a hockey coach, but he just wants to help out. That's not happening in Iceland. You have, or Island, sorry, as you properly pronounce it. They have trained coaches at every single level that coach the same system. And that, as I think the key is if you coach the same system from when you're 8 until you're 18, it makes the jump a lot easier into the national team. It makes the jump easier into going into other countries, Europe, whatever, if that's the case. I know here in Canada, like, we don't have a big enough league. Like, we have the CPL. It's just starting to get started. So a lot of our talent will either go to the MLS or down to the Mexican League, or even make the jump over to Europe, like Alphonso Davies and like a lot of these other Jonathan Lille and stuff. We have a lot of talent that over there. Jonathan David, sorry, in Lille. My apologies. Now, the rest of the Euro games, there's nothing too exciting. I get it. Like, on paper, there's not a lot you're going to be tuning in for. I think that Norway-Serbia is going to be fun. You get to see Erling Haaland. Serbia is actually a secretly strong team. You got Matic there, the old vet. I also really like the front two for Serbia. You got Luka Jovic, who's not getting the playing time he needs in Real Madrid right now. And then you got Milinkovic-Savic playing really well in Lazio. Dustin Tadic for Ajax. You got Kolarov, still the classic demon. He's still running around in Roma. I really think that this will be a fun game to watch. Erling Haaland can score a goal at any moment, any time. So definitely keep an eye out for him. He'll be popping a few in. Other than that, those are my main matchups I'd be watching. The Northern Ireland, Bosnia-Herzegovina could be a really exciting one. Northern Ireland trying to make their push. They had a nice little run last time. Hungary trying to regain their titles as soccer dominance. It's been many years. And then in regards to Scotland, Israel, I couldn't tell you who's going to win that game. It'll be fun to watch, though. I love watching some international. It'll mean a little more in these games because they need the points. Whereas when we jump over now to our international friendlies, this one's a lot of tuning up. This is a lot of getting some young players involved. You might have some call-ups you're kind of surprised by. But this is the time to do it. I mentioned at the top of the show, I'm still a little surprised they're going ahead with friendlies during COVID, considering all the travel and all the risks involved in it. But I'm not in Europe, so apparently they have such testing that they can test you right at the airport. You'll know before you even leave the airport. So that's a game changer. I just thought they would kind of put the friendlies on the back burner and get the European qualifiers done, but they went for it all here. So let's go. Here we go. Starting it off. Wednesday, October 7th, match number 1. We got Armenia against Albania. Then we got Cyprus against the Czech Republic. Denmark against Faroe Islands. Estonia against Lithuania. Malta against Gibraltar. Another place in my heart. I always want to go Malta. That was on our trip list, and it got stolen from us. Now, the next is Montenegro against Latvia. Luxembourg and Liechtenstein. Austria takes on Greece. Andorra against Cape Verde Islands. Germany take on Turkey. Italy versus Moldova. The Netherlands go against Mexico. That'll be fun to watch. Poland gets to go against Finland. Portugal against Spain. Slovenia, San Marino. Switzerland, Croatia. And France and the Ukraine. So there's several good matchups here that I'll be tuning in for. I'm upset that they doubled down on the same timeline for Portugal and Spain. Is going to be really fun to watch. Portugal is one of the hottest young teams. They still have Ronaldo there. They still have Yao Coutinho, the wily vet. They got the wonder kid Fabio Silva that just signed to Wolves. They got João Felix. Their team is stacked. And I remember when they had Renato Sanchez too. Maybe he can have a resurgence because he had quite the Euro back when Portugal won. And then he got bought up by Bayern, never got the playing time, did a couple loan spells, and was never able to regain himself. The other matchups to watch here, France and Ukraine. Always good to see the defending world champs go against Ukraine. I wish Shevchenko could suit up for the Ukrainians to make it a little more interesting, but I see France winning that one. Switzerland, Croatia. This will be a fun one. Croatia kind of took the brunt end of losing this of COVID. They would have been a lot better position if Euro was last year. They have a lot of aging stars. You have Luka Modric, who's not getting the playing time he used to since his Ballon d'Or win. You got Ivan Rakitic, who was shipped out of Barcelona. A lot of your core group of guys, Lovren, he's banged up nowadays. Mario Mandzukic, like a lot of their aging wonders. They had their golden generation. We'll see if the young bucks can come in. Maybe that's what this Euro is going to be for. We're going to see a lot of new Croatian faces. Little out with the old, in with the new. We'll see. Switzerland still has my Arsenal man, Granit Xhaka. They have Shaqiri. They are another team that secretly always gets into the Euro, and they do well. No team wants to see them. Really strong defensively. And the last one I might tune in for is Germany-Turkey, just because I haven't gotten to see the German national team lately. They will probably be going young as well. They have a lot of young talent, including Leroy Sané, who's trying to get back into the international squad since that devastating knee injury, who's been doing really well with Bayern Munich. I wonder if Lowe is going to bring back Thomas Müller to the fold. I don't think he has yet. In this friendly, I'm guessing you're not going to see a lot of Bayern Munich players. They've been getting a lot of playing time lately, so they might get a little break. Might see some little unknowns, which is always good. In Germany, they're known for having that deep camp of players. So I expect them to just keep rolling out guys left and right. That's what they've done for years. You can see it from the success they had back when they won the World Cup. All those guys were homegrown products, from Toni Kroos to Mesut Ozil. Of course, having Miroslav Klose up front was always the best thing for them. But Germany's always putting out talent, so keep an eye out them. They should roll on Turkey. But it's also, I think, for a lot of us, it's just keeping an eye out for those young studs, and you get to see guys, and you get to see them grow and develop, and you can tell your friends and be like, hey, watch out for him. You watch out for that Kai Havertz. He's one of the best young German players you'll ever see, so keep an eye out for that guy. I like those kind of things, so hopefully I give you a few of those. Let's move on to the second match day, Thursday, October 8th. We got Uzbekistan against Iran, Russia against Sweden, South Africa against Namibia, Belgium takes on Ivory Coast, the English and the Three Lions take on Wales, and then Belgium takes on New Zealand. Oh, my apologies, that one's been canceled, actually. Not sure what happened there. This one, everyone's going to be watching that England-Wales game. It'll be really fun. I'm not sure if Gareth Bale is going to play yet. I sure hope so. He hasn't been able to be fit for Tottenham yet, so it'd be surprising if he goes and plays for Wales. I'm sure Jose Mourinho wouldn't love that too much. I know he was giving Gareth Southgate a hard time because Southgate and him had a little run-in because Mourinho felt he was using Harry Kane too much. So Jose, after they had their huge win of 6-1, gave Kane a little break, and he said, okay, now, Southgate, now you can have him now that he's rested. So that'll be the game to watch. Belgium against Ivory Coast. This one's going to be fun, too. Belgium are that team that I mentioned with like Croatia, that their window could be closing. So this little delay from COVID could hinder their performances. Eden Hazard won't be healthy yet, but they still have a beautiful up front. They still have Lukaku kicking it. His brother's there. They have Kevin De Bruyne. They have a really strong Belgian team. I wouldn't sit on them. They have Axel Witsel as well, who's playing really well for Dortmund. Russia-Sweden will be fun. The Russians are always hard to play against. Even when they had their host, you can ask Spain that when they knocked Spain out back in 2018. Sweden, I wish Zlatan Ibrahimovic was running out on the field, but he gave up international duty years ago. It's unfortunate because he could do really well in these sorts of environments. So Let's move on to the Friday match day. This one we got Japan against Cameroon. Mali takes on Ghana. Morocco against Senegal. Nigeria against Algeria. Cameroon against Sudan. And Kenya against Zambia. So this is primarily your African teams here. Senegal is going to be hurting when they play Morocco. They're not going to have Sadio Mane, who tested positive for COVID. So that's going to hurt them. The Screaming Eagles of Nigeria, they'll do well against Algeria. Nigeria is a really fun team. Anyone who's unfamiliar, they're a really great team. Beautiful uniforms, beautiful style of play. Always great to watch. Ghana, the Black Stars against Mali. Ghana's trying to get back to where they were. They made the World Cup semifinals back in Brazil. Were robbed by Luis Suarez doing the punch out of the net. Anyone who hasn't seen that, YouTube, Luis Suarez, Uruguay, Ghana. Oh, it was devastating. He punches the ball out of the net, saves his team the goal, straight red card, penalty shot, miss. Uruguay advances. It's nothing worse than when the guy that does the dastardly evil act moves on, but that's Suarez. He's used to being the bad guy. Ghana's got a lot of talent, though. I'm looking forward to seeing Thomas Partey, who I mentioned is in transfer talks to come to Arsenal. I've only seen him a handful of times play for Atleti. I'd like to see him on the international stage. That would be kind of fun to watch. Japan takes on Cameroon. Japan, really fun team. You got Minamino. You got a lot of young players that are really fun to watch. A lot of ball movement, a lot of passing. Japan's a force to be reckoned with. I'm excited to see what they can do. To move on, we got Saturday and Sunday, not too many games. You got Honduras takes on Nicaragua. Tanzania takes on Burundi. South Africa against Zambia. And Ghana takes on Qatar. This one's kind of interesting, Ghana against Qatar, because Qatar has been trying to get themselves shaped up and ready to go to be the hosts. They don't want to be an embarrassment as a host, so they've been trying to invest a lot of money. Speaking of which, actually threw a lot of money at Zinedine Zidane to come be the coach, and he opted out to go back to Real Madrid and coach. I heard they offered money to Xavi, the ex-Barcelona wonder, and nothing. So maybe money can't buy you everything, because they need to get their team together before they're the hosts. That's coming up in less than 2 years, 2022, and it's taking place in winter. For those unfamiliar, the Qatar World Cup is going to be in the winter, because could you imagine being in Qatar in the middle of July trying to play soccer? Ooh, that would be a hot one. All right, and then the last match day for all the international friendlies, we got Iran against Tajikistan. You got Japan against Ivory Coast. We got Morocco against the Dominican Republic of Congo. Then we got Nigeria against Tunisia. Mexico takes on Algeria. And Senegal versus Mauritania. The matchup here I want to see. I like this. That Mexican team is really fun to watch. They have a lot of... It's not just the days of Chicharito anymore. They have a lot of young talent. They had some big upsets. They actually knocked Germany out of the last World Cup. It's a shocker. So keep an eye out for them, especially with the North American touch. Like, being in Canada, I'll always have a special place for any of the American teams, any of the Mexican teams. We're neighbors. We got to look out for each other. Japan, like I mentioned, already great team. Morocco's a fun team as well, but I don't expect any two barn burners out of this. Iran is actually a really good team. I got to see them in the last World Cup. Real shockers all around. Overall, this international break should be a lot of fun. The Euros are going to matter for a lot of teams more than others. So if I was to prioritize watching, because I'm always looking out for you people, you got to give the fans the best experience possible. I would personally prioritize the European games just because they mean a little more. The tackles will be that much harder. But having said that, sometimes friendlies get out of hand and pride is a thing. And if people are getting willing to fight in men's league soccer games, Div 5, I got a feeling on the world's biggest stage, that competitive juice never gets turned off. So after you prioritize the good European games, if you're going into your friendlies, like I mentioned earlier, check in on the Portugal-Spain game. That game is going to be unbelievable. I'm so excited to see that one. Germany, like I said, I want to see what squad they bring up. France, Ukraine, you always want to watch the defending champs. Switzerland, Croatia, That one's going to be a close game. I'd be guessing like a 2-2, maybe even a 3-2 barn burner. England, Wales, that's what my Thursday is going to be. I want to see what the Three Lions bring out. They got a lot of young talent. If you want some young talent on the English boys to watch out for, Bukayo Saka, the Arsenal boy, playing so well. The wonder kid, 19 years old, just scored 18 years old, sorry. Just scored one of the nicest goals for Arsenal. He's making moves, that man, and I'm loving to see it. Reece Nelson got his call up. Joe Willock. You have a lot of, and then you had, of course, like I said, those guys that didn't follow COVID protocol. Yeah, Mason Greenwood and Phil Foden last time on international duty got caught trying to bring some women into the hotel, and Gareth Southgate sent him home. So this was after their first international debut on the big stage. Really rough to see for these young boys. And the young Englishman mistakes continued on this international break because Tammy Abraham, apparently his friends organized a little birthday party and under his 23rd birthday. But in London, you're not allowed to have groupings of more than 6 people. And it turned out that Jadon Sancho was with him. And it's kind of a rough look for English football right there. Ben Chilwell was there too. Southgate hasn't said whether he's benching the guys or not. It's not a good look for when your professional athletes can't follow the COVID laws and rules when they're millionaires, while the rest of us still try to make it happen. So that's a bad look. I hope Southgate uses it as an example and we don't see these guys in the squad so they learn their lesson. Even though I love to see Jadon Sancho, he's a young, talented kid. He's playing in Dortmund. He's really good. He's one to look out for. And then the other one I could see is Harry Neville could be doing really well. The young Man U kid, he could get up there. I think he's only 16, so hopefully he gets some playing time. And it'll be interesting to see if Harry Maguire gets thrown in the fold again after that whole thing in Greece. But that's your international roundup. I know it's a little mundane, just giving you all the breakdowns, but I just wanted you to have some idea of the games that are on, some of the players to look out for, and just take it all in, because we all have different ethnicities. Maybe you got some Portuguese in the background, Italian, I don't know. Just take it in, enjoy some good footy, and stay tuned after the break. I want to talk about that Tottenham All or Nothing documentary. It was crazy.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Welcome back to the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm Craig Jones. I just finished giving you the international rundown because we're on international break, so I thought I'd give you some nice matchups, some nice young studs to look out for when you're watching those games. But now here's what we've been waiting for, the All or Nothing documentary review. So I just finished the Amazon documentary. For those unfamiliar, the All or Nothing, they've done several of them. They've done the Dallas Cowboys, the Philadelphia Eagles, and they did Man City, actually, the Manchester City. And this year they did the Tottenham Hotspurs. No, I don't think it's a coincidence that Tottenham just had a new stadium, so they decided to get the Amazon crew in there. So this is coming the year after their Champions League loss to Liverpool in the finals. And everything off the start, the wheels come off. Mauricio Pochettino was the coach that led them all that way. He was a great coach, the Argentina legend. I love watching it. He brought a new type of footy to Tottenham that was really fun to watch. It almost reminded me of the old Arsene Wenger days with Arsenal. So the documentary starts off with Pochettino. They've dropped down to 14th place in the table after a rough draw to Southampton. It's not going well for them. They can't handle it, so they axe him. They axe him, and I couldn't believe it. I felt like they really made Mauricio the scapegoat. They needed it. They really made him look bad in all the editing. They made him look timid. I just feel like from the get-go, they needed a storyline, and they seized it. And whether Daniel Levy used because of the documentary or not, I can never tell you. He doesn't look like the most trustworthy fella. I'm just saying, if I was in a coffee shop and Daniel Levy's there, I don't know if I'm asking him to watch my laptop. He looks a little sneaky, you could say. But then after that, Pochettino gets let go. They bring in the special one, Jose Mourinho. And I just found out how you say it. It's not Jose Mourinho, it's Jose. As he says it in the documentary that he gets so annoyed when people say his name wrong. So that's why he's just telling the players, I don't want to say your name wrong. So if I'm saying it wrong, tell me. He's like, everyone calls me Jose. That's Spanish. He's Portuguese, so it's Jose, which I thought was so funny. Is for years I've called him Jose. A couple funny quotes from it was Daniel Levy when he was signing Mourinho. He said, my heart is telling me don't do it, but my brain is telling me to do it. I thought that was funny just because of Mourinho is a polarizing figure. He's been sacked from his last 3 jobs. He was in Man U, he was in Chelsea, he was in Real Madrid, and now he's in Tottenham. I like the signing personally. I think Tottenham, that's what they need, is a hard coach. A lot of the documentaries spent saying that Mourinho says, like, you guys are too nice. And he's like, even when I played against you guys, you would all be so friendly and so kind. I'm like, he says, you need to not like me. You need to not be my friend on the pitch. We can be friends after, but on the pitch, we're not friends. And you need to get that meanness out there, which is interesting because I never would have thought that's what Tottenham needed. I thought they would just need a little more depth and better coaching and tactically, but I guess it's true. You need to have that grit and grind. So the documentary progresses. There's a couple cool scenes. One with the ball boy. There's a great scene. I remember watching it live. It's funny watching it back in the documentary. So the ball goes out, and a ball boy, quick on the ball, just he sees the play. He sees Kane running. He sees the chance that if they get a quick throw in, they can maybe be opportunistic here, and they got themselves a goal. And it was so cute. Mourinho went over and gave him a hug, congratulated him, even set it up so he could come in. He had lunch with the team, and he sat in the dining room and everything. And I could just imagine being an 8-year-old kid and going to be with your biggest club in the world, and you actually helped the game. He did his job. He helped the game. It was good to see. That was really cool of Mourinho. A couple things also is there was a crazy scene where Mourinho, I think he was giving a jab to Alex Ferguson in Manchester. I'm not sure, but he said in his 2 years at Manchester United, Alex Ferguson only gave him one piece of advice, and he told him, buy Dele Alli. He said that player is a Manchester United player. He told him, buy Dele Alli. Ironic watching that now as the documentary comes out, because Dele Alli's on the ropes, and there's been talks that they've been trying to sell him. So maybe Alex Ferguson wasn't right about that one, or maybe they can sell him to Man U, because I don't know if Mourinho wants him anymore. I like the overall feel of the documentary. It was cool. I loved seeing the inner workings behind everything. But once again, if you look at who All or Nothing has done, the Dallas Cowboys, the Manchester City Cheaters, the Philadelphia Eagles, like you're picking your biggest clubs in the world. It'd be kind of interesting to see a smaller club, a little less Hollywood. I think it'd be interesting to see more stuff behind the scenes. We got a lot, but I wanted more training. I wanted more training dust-ups, which there was a couple, because Mourinho had them during COVID. Well, actually, before I skip over that, I'll say COVID hits with about 3 episodes left. COVID comes to town, and you can see just the adjustments that not only the footy team had to make, but like the soccer players, and they were just like us. They had to make decisions. They had to make sacrifices. They had to say, hey, okay, well, this is secondary to the well-being of my family and friends. We got to see Harry Kane do a gender reveal where he kicks the ball, and there's like a balloon hanging in the net right in the top of the thing, and he just walks up and kicks it and knocks it down to have a boy. I'm curious to know how many takes they did that for. Did he hit it the first time? he is a top-notch striker, so I would assume he can just be clinical like that. The other thing that I thought was kind of crazy was just how Lloris is actually the captain of that team. Because when Hugo Lloris breaks his arm, you can see a lot of things change. You can see Kane is being forced to step into that role. Heung-min Son is not the captain. He's such a great player, but you can tell he's not a captain. You have Eric Dyer, and you had Vertonghen, but Vertonghen was already on his way out. They had to deal with all the awkward drama of Christian Eriksen leaving. That was weird. He demanded his way out. They waited. They ended up selling him for a measly $20 million. I know that's in relative, that's a lot, but in football terms, it's not. He should have been valued more. And now he's struggling in Inter. He's not doing as well. Maybe he shouldn't have left. The grass isn't always greener on the other side. Seeing how the team let go of their players, it was a little awkward with Danny Rose. He had a nice little run-in with Mourinho when he came in and asked him about what's going on with the playing time. Am I going to be getting any more? Or what's going on? And Mourinho says, you played really rough in the last match against Liverpool. And then Danny Rose says, yeah, except I played once every 4 weeks, so do you want me to be man of the match? And I felt him on that. That's a tough thing. If you haven't been playing and then you get thrown against who were the league champions, I don't think you can hold that as a strong enough sample size. The documentary progressed really well throughout. Of course, it's a little different when you know how the story ends. You kind of know what's going on, especially if you are a Tottenham fan. But I love seeing some of the inner workings. I love seeing the way the staff works, how all the treatment, the way they approach things. I wanted more training because I wanted to get some tips. When I'm coaching kids when we get back to soccer, I want to see some of those. I want to have some training tactics. We may not have all the equipment that these guys have, but we can steal those little ideas and just set up little things that not only drills that are effective for training skills, but effective for having fun. And that's the biggest thing, especially with kids and even as adults. You can see on the training ground, you can see when a team's happy, playing, practicing, living together. It makes things a lot easier. The biggest drama of the entire documentary was definitely when Hugo Lloris went at Heung-min Son. It was too much yelling and swearing, so you couldn't really tell much of it. I think it's because Son didn't make a run that he was supposed to near the end of the half. He was being lazy, I think Lloris felt. Because he kept saying, he makes the run, he makes the run, he makes the run, you don't make the run. So whatever that means, whether he was supposed to do a track back or not. And granted, tensions were high. Tottenham just kept losing over and over and over. Dele Alli and Eric Dyer had a little dust up, but then that shows them being friends after. And that's another thing with coworkers and teammates is you gotta leave that stuff at the office. And it's a lot different when some of these guys were rooming together. Some of these guys are living together. So it changes the whole dynamic of everything. Mourinho definitely comes out looking like the star. You could have called this the Jose Mourinho documentary because he lets you know everything about him, which is fun because he's quite the private guy. And all I've heard is he's just amazing to be if you're committed to the program. The second you veer off or think you're better than anything else. He has a famous story with Mesut Ozil, where Mesut Ozil wrote it in his book when he was in Real Madrid and Mourinho was the coach, that Ozil was playing terrible and just and in the shower, Mourinho came and threw the shampoo bottle at him and said, all you care about is doing your hair, so go do your hair because that's all you care about. And so Ozil went into the shower, ripped off his jersey and threw it at Mourinho, went into the shower. Unbeknownst to Mourinho, their captain, Sergio Ramos, put it on underneath his jersey, ran out, scored a goal, the game-winning goal, took off the jersey, and then told Ozil after the game, like, he was right, and I'll defend you, but you need to be better. And I don't know how much that affected Ozil because he's kind of pulling the same stunt in Arsenal. But regardless, Mourinho is that guy. He has a lot of legendary stories like that. As I mentioned, he's not afraid to give those quips to other managers, whether it's, of course, Arsenal hates me. I never lose to them. Of course, they hate me. He has a lot of them. He's referred to as the special one for a reason. He has 26 titles. All he does is win Champions League. He's taken several teams to Champions League. He's taken Porto, Real Madrid, Chelsea. Mourinho is the coach. Is he still the coach of today? That's what I wonder. There's a lot of, in sports now, we're seeing a lot of this transition away from these older coaches more to a younger, kind of just more of a player's coach. Those days of running it like a military, I don't think are as prevalent anymore, especially in footy. That stuff doesn't fly over there. But Mourinho, if he can win, it's quite the elixir. Winning is quite the elixir. So if he's able to get that going, from the documentary, I see that Heung-min Son and Harry Kane, when they're healthy, is one of the most vicious duos up front you'll ever have. They need to get a better player feeding them through the middle. Lamela did really well. A couple takeaways also. One of my favorite players now is Sissoko. Like, what a surprise. Like, he's just such a leader in the dressing room, and he was just such a nice guy making jokes. He was a fun guy. Christian Eriksen should never tell a joke again. I think he said, why couldn't the dog cross the street? Because he had 2 left feet. I was like, whew, that's the one you're going with on a documentary. That's tough. But the stadium looks amazing. You get to see it. I know they're just itching to get fans in there. It's such a huge, beautiful stadium. It's devastating that they never even got to have their real season opener with it. Final thing that I'll say from this is let's turn the cameras. Let's have some hidden cameras for once. That's what I want. I want people to be talking like they don't know they're on camera. Because that's what I felt like happened, is a lot of guys were shy or they were over the top boisterous. Because you go one way or the other. Either you're meek and mild in front of the camera, or you see it and you start going for it. So that was like a little, I'd say with a grain of salt, I'd say that. In regards how it ranks amongst soccer documentaries, I liked it better than the Man City one, just because I'm just not a big fan of Man City. I like Pep, but everything they stand for is just kind of greasy to me. I don't like all the money being thrown into football, and if you're going to do it illegally and you're breaking the financial fair play rules, I think you should be held accountable. In this one, I really didn't like how Pochettino was made the scapegoat. That really did bug me. I wasn't a fan of that. The Manchester 5 is a good documentary. I enjoyed that one. The Diego Maradona is actually really good. I'm a little biased here because I love Sergio Ramos, but Sergio Ramos did one on Amazon as well, which was really neat to see. It gave him a real glimpse into what he does every day to be a footballer, and it's amazing how he keeps doing it, how he's one of the best in the world. That one I knew it was going to be a puff piece. I understood that. This Tottenham one I was hoping for a little bit more. But beggars can't be choosers. Maybe they'll go into a lower Div 2 team. That's what I'd like. I'd like to go into a Div 3 team, something like that, and where the clubhouse isn't as nice, and sometimes the washroom doesn't work, and sometimes people have to do double duties where the therapist is having to do janitorial work or something. I don't know, just a little more real. Because this one felt like it was on a movie, on a football, like a football, it's like a Hollywood football blend we were watching. It was still entertaining. I still enjoyed it. I'd still recommend everyone to watch it. I wouldn't say it's my favorite documentary of the world, and I'm not saying that just because I'm an Arsenal fan. I genuinely mean there's some really cool parts. I like some of it. I really loved getting to know Jose Mourinho. He's always been someone that I've really admired, and it's always been tough for me because he's always been the opposing coach that I really am not cheering for. So you can have that mutual respect for them, but also just be like, I don't like you very much. So, and that's it for the All or Nothing documentary of the Tottenham Hotspurs. Please reach out if you have any cool documentaries you think I'd like. I love getting new suggestions, new stuff. I love seeing it all. So thank you so much for joining us at the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'd like to ask you all, please remember to subscribe to the show, write a nice review. It really helps us out. If you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. Once again, I'm Craig Jones. Take care. Enjoy the international break. Footy will be back soon.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.